Welcome along to another video. I am That Cycling Chimp, and in this one the day has finally come. I'm now into the third week of November 2023 and the Scottish weather is just broken down. It's absolutely blowing a hoolie today and it's also chucking it down with rain. So much so we've got that lovely horizontal Scottish rain that comes in off the west coast. So I have to admit, there's no way I'm going out in that today, and it is pretty much unrideable. So it's gave me the opportunity to come down to the Pain Cave, set up the turbo trainer, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of interval training indoors. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of training indoors. I would rather be out in the wilderness and having an adventure. But as I said in my last video, I've got to keep the consistency up with my fitness so it's not taking me a long time to recover and I can get out on the bike a lot more. I will still be getting out on the bike, it's just not going to be as much now because that is the weather changing. You're probably wondering why I'm standing here wearing this jacket. This is a ProViz Reflect 360 cycling jacket. I done a local 30km ride the other day, but I went out later on in the day, kind of twilight, night time, just to see how this jacket performed. Maybe you guys have been looking into this jacket, and what I'll do is I'll leave a quick kit review at the end of this video, just to see if it's maybe suitable for your needs. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, stick around. In the meantime, I'm going to go and get changed, then we're going to go down and start this interval training. I apologise in advance that it's not going to be a classic video, nor is it going to be a great adventure, but what you will see is the endurance that I've got to go through the winter months when I'm doing indoor training. Well, that's me now changed over and I'm just about to get warmed up on the turbo trainer, but I thought I'd just show you what my setup is before I jump onto this. Now, it's the most primitive setup that I've got. I'm using a Pinnacle Laterite 1 road bike, but it's just clipped into a Tax turbo trainer, so it's a pretty simple setup. And the training shoes I'm going to use today are my Siddies. Now, I don't really like wearing these out and about because they're quite hard with the cleats, and the cockpit just consists of my head unit, and I've got my wee quad lock piece so that I can clip my phone in to control my music. Well, that's me clipped in now and just about ready to start warming up. I've got to preload my headset so that I know what I'm doing, and I'm not used to this headset either. One of the things I've noticed with the Garmin 540 head unit is it's completely different to the 130 plus that I'm used to using, and I used to know my way around about that pretty well. I've had to put in a metric century plan just so that I can manipulate the program and then I can get myself some 5-minute intervals. So for you guys that don't really know much about interval training or tempo training, the idea behind it is to train your heart. It's just keeping heart fitness at a level to maintain. I've started warming up. I'm warming up in zone 2 just now. Now, for some of you guys that probably don't know what I'm talking about, your heart's got 5 zones. Zones 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Zone 1 is your resting heart rate, and zone 5 is the hardest that your heart can pump. When you're doing interval training, it's very important that you warm up properly instead of just blasting all out. I'm going to be doing 5 minutes of warming up in zone 2, 5 minutes in zone 3, 5 minutes in zone 4, then there'll be 5 minutes of cooling down to zone 2, and then we'll probably be doing zone 3 intervals today. As I said, I'm not a big fan of intervals, but they do help, and you do notice that your fitness gets a lot better when you're doing them. To give you an idea of what your zone 2 heart rate is, you should be able to have a conversation like this. When you hit zone 3, your breathing will start to get a little bit harder, more laboured, and it'll be a little bit harder to talk. Zone 4 even harder, and then zone 5, there's just no point. So I'm just about to go from zone 2 to zone 3. Now that I'm in zone 3, the bike sounds a lot louder, but I'm starting to feel a bit more laboured, and the breathing's getting a little bit harder. So my target in zone 3 is 143 beats per minute to 166. I'm currently at 159 and just about to head into zone 4. In zone 4, my target is 166 beats per minute to 184, and you can now tell zone 4 is a little harder. I need to get my heart rate up a little bit. Now that that's me in zone 4, you can tell I'm struggling. My heart rate's roughly about 172 beats per minute, and I'm starting to feel the heat coming on now, and this is only the warm-up. I'm starting to come up to the end of the zone 4 warm-up. Now it's time to cool off. I'm starting to perspire a little bit. One of the biggest things you need to remember when you're doing this sort of training is always hydrate, because you will get out of breath, you will sweat a lot, more so indoors because you've not got any air as such. I'm now on my second interval in zone 3, and it's starting to get a little bit intense, and this is the reason we call it the pain cave, because you don't realise what your fitness level is actually at until you're doing stuff like this. I have felt worse. I think this is because it's the first interval training I have done at the tail end of this season, but I do reckon a couple of weeks of this and it will help out drastically. One, for my endurance, and two, the consistency does help the recovery time. It shortens it a lot more, I think, because your body's used to the extreme circumstances that it's getting put under. So I'm coming up to the end of my second interval, and it's going to be a zone 2 recovery for 5 minutes again, and then it'll be on to the last one. And after my last interval, I'll talk to you a little bit about the ProViz Reflect 360 cycling jacket. And this is me just heading into my third and final interval for zone 3. And surprisingly enough, I actually feel not too bad. Yep, I'm pretty sweaty. Yep, my legs are burning slightly. But I think back to when I started doing interval training last year, and I struggled quite a lot to do the interval training last year. But it seems this year I've been cycling quite a lot more, and it's definitely helped. Now you're probably wondering how I can tell what my heart rate is. I've actually got a heart rate monitor on underneath my shirt. There's a small sensor on that strap taking my pulse, and it's reading back to my head unit. But that's how I know what zone I'm in. And the way I feel just now, I might be in the danger zone. No, I'm joking. Once you hit zone 5, then you know you're in the danger zone. Oh. And that's my third and final interval. Now all I have to do is an easy cool down, 15 minutes in zone 2. Quite a lot of you that's watching will probably be thinking, that looks pretty monotonous, and it is. And I know there are platforms out there like Zwift and Ruby, and I have used Zwift before, but I just couldn't get into it. I might try it again though this year. I think the reason I didn't like it was because I never had anything that had enough power to actually use it, because I don't really like bringing a lot of tech down to the pain cave. I only really like to bring down what I need. And yeah, I know you can use it in your phone, but I like to use my phone for my actual music. Anyway, I was going to talk to you guys about the ProViz Reflect 360 cycling jacket. So I picked one up last winter because I was looking for a reflective jacket. I used it a couple of times last year, but I don't really like getting out in the rain or the wind for that matter. I wouldn't say I'm a conditions perfect cyclist, but I do like it to be dry. It can be cold just as long as it's dry. So what do I think about the ProViz jacket? I think it's okay. It's got a nice large pocket in the back, and it's got 2 chest pockets. Inside the chest pockets you could probably fit your keys, phone, wallet, etc, etc. The back pocket's pretty generous too. I'm pretty sure it'll keep you dry on the outside, and that's the big downfall of it. The jacket's a good fit, the waterproof factor's really good, storage is pretty good on it, but boy do you sweat inside it. The reflectiveness of it is really good too. The only issue I have with that is, in Scotland when you've got an overcast day, the colour of the jacket, it is pretty hard to spot out. And being a driver, I've seen quite a lot of people wearing these jackets, and you can see them, but they're pretty hard compared to a bright orange jersey or one of the luminous yellow ones as well. I went out and done 30 kilometres the other day, and I was wearing the jacket. Now, I didn't feel it when I was out. I felt pretty comfortable when I was out. When I got home and I took the jacket off, my shirt said otherwise. I wish I'd taken a photograph of said shirt, because you could wring it out, it was that wet, and it was with sweat. It's definitely not a jacket to use for longer rides. I think the best uses for it would probably be for commuting to and from work if it's not that far. You could probably wear it on grocery shopping on your bike. You could probably use it for walking the dog, or it seems to be a lot of people use it for running as well. I can understand the safety factor is really good, but it's just not for me. I will continue to use the jacket, but it'll just be shorter journeys I'll be using it on now. I prefer stowing away a packable rain jacket on my bike anyway, so can I recommend it? Yeah, I suppose it ticks a few pros, but it has got a few cons. I think the price point of it, yeah, it's not too bad. For the safety side of it, it is worth it. Well, that's us got to the end of another video. I did record an outro earlier on, but Mr. Spielberg's going to be soiling his briefs with this director's cut. I had some technical difficulties with the GoPro and it just did not record. So I was sitting on the bike for a good 5 to 10 minutes talking a load of nonsense to myself, as just any other day. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys for sticking along to the end and watching today. Also want to say hello to my new subscribers, and also I want to say a huge thanks to everybody collectively, because we've hit another milestone of 200 subscribers, and guys, honest to God, you don't know how much that means to me. If you liked today's video, you can give it a big thumbs up. You can even subscribe if you want as well, because your subscribing keeps me riding. In the meantime, you can check out my last video, or you can even check out previously on that cycling chimp down at the bottom there. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.